Welcome to Lived In, a podcast series by Hemby Home Co. Lived In is all about interior styling for the ordinary home. If you live in an ordinary house on an average street and you love design, this podcast is for you. Many of us long to infuse the places in which we dwell with both style and livability, but we also have to stick to realistic budgets. What does it look like to live in a space that transitions with you as life does? How do you build equity while creating a space that truly feels like home? And what can you do to make a space yours when it doesn't belong to you? Join me, Hemby Co, a realtor, content manager, and interior advisor, and let's find out. Good morning, guys. I hope you're all doing well. As I record this, sunlight is just pouring through the windows, which feels wildly appropriate for the topic and the concept that we will be discussing in today's episode. And if it's not clear from the title, that is, does design matter? And really, the whole jumping off point for this episode comes from an HGTV show that I am completely obsessed with. Thanks, Mum. And it's called Rock the Block. Now, what's funny about this is I think that my mum had been telling me to watch Rock the Block for about a year. And I was busy. I was watching other stuff. I wasn't sure if I was going to be interested. But then I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and my mum was visiting us at the time. And we watched the entire second season in one day. So if you're not familiar with the show, the concept is essentially a house design competition on one block where 4 teams of designers compete against each other to design identical homes, but differently. So they each start with the same floor plan, same square footage, and they have to design them in such a way that they increase the home's value by the largest possible amount. And there was a specific moment, and I believe it's from the 3rd season, and it's where one of the designers is talking kind of to the camera, and you can tell that he is kind of indignant as he's arguing that design really does add value. And this moment really struck me because I thought to myself, do I agree with him? And of course, I do, generally speaking, agree that design adds value. But in the particular context of what he was talking about, I disagreed wholeheartedly. The main brief on Rock the Block is adding value. There are ways you can add value through design, but there are also ways that design features are somewhat arbitrary. So before those of you who are huge celebrators and patrons of art and design fight me on this, I want to kind of make a point to further illustrate what I mean. Now, let's say you have an appraiser, and this is someone who looks at homes and evaluates what they are worth. If you have an appraiser look at a 3-bed, 1,200 square foot single family home with 1 bathroom and a stunning feature wall, and then have them compare it to a 3-bedroom, 1,200 square foot single family home with 2 bathrooms and no feature wall, the appraiser is going to mark the price up on the comparable property, the one with the 2 bathrooms, because it has an additional bathroom. He's not going to mark it down, or she's not going to mark it down, because it doesn't have a feature wall. Design adds value, yes, but that can't be equated with pretty things are worth more money. That's not how it works. Design adds value and it matters, and I will explain how and why. As I was getting ready for this episode, I started kind of distilling this down and trying to sort through how to explain it. And I think it starts with understanding what design is. Now, I think many people assume design is superficial and somewhat arbitrary. I think too often we think design is just making things look pretty. But really, design isn't about looks. It involves looks, but it's not about looks. Even design as an art form, which it definitely is something that is created in order to evoke a response. That's what design is. So I really want to challenge the idea of design as being surface level pretty. let's kind of dig deep into this a bit. So what is design? I think design at its core is about creating order and making materials make sense. That might not be how you think about it, but like I said, it is actually way more than just making things pretty. It's about maximizing potential from existing materials and space and creating a sense of order where there wasn't one. Order from chaos. So, for example, an artist takes random materials and makes them into something meaningful. My sister is an author. She takes words and formulates them into an idea and a concept that is tangible for someone to understand. An architect looks at a blank canvas of a landscape and imagines what different materials can be used to create a building on that landscape. An interior designer looks at the four walls of a home and separates those into rooms, deciding what functions they will serve and what features they will hold. This is making order from chaos. This is design. Now, in the sense of a home specifically, design matters in a few different ways. It matters because it affects how we interact and move within our spaces. So a well-designed floor plan allows us to navigate easily from one room to another. A well-designed subway system, for example, or bus system, is one with few bottlenecks. A well-designed chair is literally the difference between sitting comfortably and getting a backache. It tells us which way to go. Good design shows you how to use the space. That's number one. Number two is that it matters because it quite literally has the power to impact our levels of stress and peace. I had actually finished writing this episode and was on YouTube catching up on some of my favorite YouTube creators. And you will know, if you've listened to this for any amount of time, that I really like Paige Wassell's videos. Now, she had posted one about how your home can help you fight seasonal depression. And it was so spot on and so in tandem, I just felt like I had to mention it. I will make sure that I link it in the show notes. But she spoke about small things like light coming in and opening the blinds, and also bigger things too. We are visual creatures, and what we see affects how we feel. Colors have an impact. In fact, I was looking up some quotes and research for this episode, and I'll make sure I link these in the show notes. But the Science of People says, color can affect mood. Color influences human behavior, emotions, attention span, and concentration. The vividness or paleness of a color also changes the impact of that color. So color has an impact, but light also has an impact. Another piece of research, an article from Psychology Today, they said, natural light has the potential to enhance people's mood, creativity, and cognitive performance. Warm lighting can help create a cozy social atmosphere, while cool lighting can help create an atmosphere for focus and concentration. That's why the lighting in rooms in hospitals is so cold. Now, those are two fairly simple examples, but I think that there are more. We've talked about color, we've talked about lighting, but vastness is felt. It isn't just seen. Probably the easiest example, or the easiest way to think about this, is in terms of a spa. When you walk into a spa, the design has been chosen in order to bring you to a peaceful state of being. Spas aren't painted bright yellow with zigzag patterns because that doesn't communicate peace and calm. Kids' play spaces are painted bright yellow with zigzag patterns because it communicates fun and excitement and movement. One of my favorite ways to observe this whole idea of design affecting our mood and our emotions is when walking into a museum. You'll notice it in really modern ones where you walk in and it kind of opens up before you. The design itself ignites a sense of curiosity and excitement. The design signals to you how you are to feel in that space. So design can affect mood. So you need to create a space that helps you feel the ways you need to feel. This is also why I stress decluttering so much. Stuff everywhere is just not calming. I'm saying that, thinking about my bedroom and knowing it is a complete disaster. But stuff everywhere is not calming. So start there. Start with decluttering. The third reason I would say that design matters is because when it's good, it can lead to longevity and sustainability. It can save money and save time and save effort. Good design can solve problems. All right, it's time for my thing of the week. Now, I'm not exclusively doing items. I think I mentioned that in the last episode. However, this week's thing of the week is an item. I will link said item, but it is a small stainless steel lamp, and it's an LED lamp, so it's rechargeable, and you can put it anywhere in your house because, again, rechargeable, no cords. But you tap it to turn it on, you tap it to change it to a cooler light, you tap it to change it to a warmer light, and then you hold it, and it slowly dims. And it is the best. It was actually my Christmas present this year from my father-in-law. We got two, so one on each of our nightstands, and I love them. They are the perfect dinner light, actually. Probably better served as a dinner light than a light on a nightstand. But they are really simple in design, beautiful to look at, and easy to use. Which again, as we all know, having had some of our discussion already, is part of good design. So I will link those. They're not super expensive, quite affordable, fairly small, but again, just a beauty to behold. So I'll link those. All right, let's get back to the episode. All right, so we have talked about why design matters. We've talked about how it affects mood, how it affects how we interact, and then also how it can lead to longevity and sustainability. Good design can do that. But now we need to ask a different question. Gosh, I really love questions. The more I record on this podcast and just have these discussions, I recognize how much I just really like asking questions and the right questions. But we do need to ask the question, how does this relate to what we talk about here, which is the design of the home? Or going back to the original question that the contestant on Rock the Block was asking, can you use design to add value to your home? Yes, absolutely. Good design in a home is all about form and function, or comfort and cuteness. If it's pretty, but it's awkward, it's just pretty awkward. If it's gorgeous and it works, it's gorgeous work. In the home, good design all starts with a floor plan. If you can improve the way a space is navigated, used, or perceived, then you're going to add value. Navigation, obviously, is to do with the floor plan. So, does the floor plan make sense? And if it doesn't, how can you make it make sense? Use is, if it's an office, is it easy to use as an office, or does it currently require moving furniture from one place to another or swapping things around? Essentially, are there obstacles in the way of use? I mentioned this in the last episode, talking about our guest room / office and how it very much feels like a guest room / office because all of the furniture doesn't fit together. And so I'm having to rethink some of that because there are obstacles to use. The last one I mentioned, so I said navigated, used, or perceived. Perception is, does it feel dark and dingy? Does it feel claustrophobic? And if so, can you make it feel brighter? Can you make it feel more open? Can you make it feel more welcoming? Now, if you're trying to add value and leverage design in your home, to do so, don't just replace fixtures or furniture. To me, those are finishing touches on top of good design. They enhance the space visually, but it's unlikely, unless you're solving some sort of lighting issue or a function issue, a use issue, that replacing light fixtures or replacing knobs on a cabinet is going to add value to your home. in a real tangible way. Those finishing touches are just that, finishing touches. If the design is bad, that's just putting lipstick on a pig. What we're trying to do is turn the pig into a swan. We want them to move and look completely different. So the way to do this is to begin with, guess what? A series of questions. What is not working? Where do we get stuck? How is this holding us back? How is this slowing us down? What would the ideal be? Challenge yourself to think beyond it's ugly. Think instead, is it harmful? Is it damaging? Is it limiting? Is it excluding? Is it clumsy? Is it jarring? Is it wasteful? That's how you find out the problem. Where is the problem? That's the goal. Finding the problem creates the jumping off point for the design. The design is currently flawed and needs to be addressed if there's an issue with navigation, use, or perception. So fixing a floor plan might look like taking out a wall, or it might look like swapping the functions of two rooms. So a living room becomes a dining room, or a bedroom becomes a living room. It could also look like moving a doorway. When we're talking about smaller budgets, which we are usually on here, I always advise taking the path of least resistance. So making the smallest possible change for the largest possible impact. This could be as simple as furniture layout. Navigation isn't always about walls. It could also be about the wrong size furniture, or furniture that's the right size but in the wrong place. If you're stuck in terms of function, so how the space is used, you can use well-designed furniture that is designed to fulfill a specific purpose to help with that. So you can have multi-purpose furniture, for example, a Murphy bed. I don't know if we all love Murphy beds, but I love the idea that there is a bed that's not taking up space when it's not in use. That's great. It's a bookshelf when it's not being used. That's wonderful. And it can still be used as a bookshelf when it's being used as a bed. Even better. Multi-purpose furniture. Sleeker or stackable furniture. There are so many brands, and I love looking at the Herman Miller, Design Within Reach, Knoll, and IKEA. Their furniture, specifically their chairs and stools, they are made in many cases to stack. And that's great because it means that they don't take up space. They're not going to end up being an obstacle to use. I also love folding furniture or hanging of furniture. Some of us are just going to live in spaces that are not optimally designed, and we are limited in what we can do with that. That's fine. But using a chair that can be hung up on a wall or that can be folded, that's great. Or a table that can be folded. I think Devol, and I'll link it in the show notes, Devol actually has a table. If you have no idea who Devol is, get the Magnolia Home app or the Discovery Plus or Max and watch the show For the Love of Kitchens. I will also link to that. But Devol, they design kitchen cabinets and hardware and lights, and they've actually begun a foray into bathrooms, and everything that they design is beautiful and wonderfully well made in terms of function, not just looks. But they actually have a table that they created, and they created it so that it can be used in two different ways. And I love that. They've created it with the intention. This is something I think was way more popular when my generation was growing up, to have tables that folded and stacked and that kind of thing. And it's kind of fallen out of fashion. But use those well-designed pieces of furniture to solve challenges with use. They're going to be extremely helpful. If you are stuck with how the space is perceived in terms of feeling cold or dark or dingy, there are a few different ways you can think about this. One is with the floor plan. So a floor plan solution could work. Maybe you do take out a wall, or you take out half a wall and you have a pony wall. That could be something that allows for more light to come in. Maybe you add one big window instead of a few small ones in a room that's particularly dark. Maybe you just paint the walls a different color, because a darker room that's all yellow still feels brighter than a darker room that's gray. Another option would be to add internal windows or crittle doors. So in rooms where you need the separation, but you want more light to come flooding through from other rooms, having a pony wall with then glass above it, or having a wall of doors, a wall of windows, sorry, where light can come flooding in is really helpful. Last but not least, if you're stuck with how the space is perceived in terms of feeling cold or dark or dingy, think about how your furniture is. That might sound really counterintuitive. However, really dark furniture, and lots of it, is going to make a space feel really dark. Maybe change the window treatment that you have lighter curtains, have a different type of blind that still filters in some light. There are small things that you can do, small tweaks that you can make that will still have quite an impact in terms of how you feel. I do need to add, actually, for this one, for dark and dingy, don't forget mirrors. A well-placed mirror will really help with light in a room. I also really love skylights, if you can add those, but that's not a cheap or quick and easy thing to do. So just know that there are good design solutions available, and a well-designed room, it factors all of these things in. It doesn't just look good. Let me actually talk to you a bit about what we do at Hemby, because we have solutions that are designed for people regardless of where they fall in terms of budget. And that's a very big deal to me, because I understand on a personal level what it is to live and design on a limited budget. It was one of the reasons I loved having Hannah Otto from the Otto House on the podcast, because she works with a limited budget, she does a lot of DIY, and she still achieves great design. Again, function and form, or comfort and cuteness. Both of those are in there. Now, at Hemby, if you just want help with layout, I can help with layout, or we can help with layout. We'll help you explore different ways to put furniture in a room. I know that this sounds really stupid, because it might feel like, why on earth would I hire somebody to help me figure out furniture placement in a room? Because somebody else thinks about it more and has more out-of-the-box thinking than you do. And furniture placement in a room matters. It matters, again, for navigation, for ease of use, and for how the space is perceived. So these are all things that we talked about in terms of design. Just a simple layout change, even with the same furniture, can make a huge impact. I worked with a design client last year, and she had a really limited budget, and that's fine. And when I say really limited, I mean, she said, my husband says no more than $100 a month on design house things that are not structural or necessary. And I said, okay. And really, I just worked as a consult with her. I didn't purchase anything for her. But what I did do is walk through her space and look at it. And one of the challenges they had is her husband's got a recliner. They have an armchair that matches a sofa, 3-seater sofa. And when you walk into their house, straight ahead of you, you walk kind of through the entryway, straight ahead of you is the TV above the fireplace, and there's a staircase wall on the left. So all of the furniture is contained on the staircase wall, the wall opposite it, because you can't put it under the fireplace, and you need to be able to walk through the room. But the way that they had the furniture set up initially was that the recliner and the armchair were next to one another, because her husband wanted to be able to see the TV. They were next to one another, and you had to walk through them to get to the rest of the living room and then walk through the rest of the house. We did something really simple. We left the 3-seater sofa on the wall where it was, but we took the chairs, the recliner and the armchair, and we just moved them into a more conversational style look where they faced the sofa. So they were on the staircase wall with the fireplace at the far end between them. It was really small, and it was honestly such a tiny change. But she was in awe of how different it looked. And thankfully her husband was thrilled, because from his recliner, he could still see the television. But it was way more open, and you could walk all the way through the space, which helped it feel more open and made it feel more welcoming. So that's a really small thing. I will link to all of our design services in the show notes, so you can take a look at those and see if there's anything we could help you with. Now, before I leave, I do want to read our philosophy on design. And this is different to our design philosophy, which you can find on our website. But I think it just helps to explain the way that we think about design at Hemby. Good design makes order from chaos. It takes what would be a mass of meaningless matter and organizes it into meaningful masses of information with purpose and function. Design sees potential and creates it. Design is not arbitrary. Design is powerful. Design tells stories. Design communicates. This doesn't mean it's impossible to engage with design in superficial and arbitrary ways. I think as consumers we do this all the time. I like that, therefore I want it. I think we can engage with it more meaningfully by exploring what it is and what it does and why it works and where it works. In the context of home design, good design won't work everywhere. It is contextual. Other specific elements have to be in play in order for a design to work. So design is not frou-frou. Design is necessary. It is about considering the best choices and coming up with the best solution, both visually and experientially, to a felt or potential problem. All right, guys, that is all I have for you today. I hope that there is some food for thought there for you. I hope you feel inspired to think more intentionally about design and engage with it in a way that is more authentic and less superficial. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye, guys.